After making the guide to farm 150k on the bone zone per run, when you just started out farming, and later on in the Gallo Tower with 500k, some people have the issue that they don't get the passive weapons and the weapons that they want to have. So today I want to show you a method on how to get the weapons and the passive weapons that you want to have as fast as possible. I will use Popia because she's using a rare weapon, but none in the top slots. That means the weapons that are offered to me in the future will be more common and it will be harder to get the rare ones that I want to have. Now, Pentagram is one of them, that is amazing, but what I'll do here, just to avoid this one, is I will skip. So the way it works is you want to banish the very common weapon. You'll see a list on your screen right now with all the rarity of the weapons, and as you can see, Attract Orb is a 100. I don't want to have Attract Orb in my build, I want to have the rarest possible, and you just banish those so they never show up again. Now, I'm banishing them quite early right now. Usually you wouldn't do this. Usually you would just get a few levels into your weapons until you get to a point that you can easily deal with the enemies. There's no reason to max out all of your weapons if you already killed them 10 levels prior. So for example here, I can go for Song of Mana to double the area, or I could just banish Fire Wand, which is a rarity of 80, or Spellbinder, even better, a rarity of 100. Personal recommendation whether you should banish a weapon or a passive weapon, it really depends on what you're looking for, but in this case, since I go for all the rarest stuff in both weapons and passive weapons, there's no big difference and I should just slightly banish more weapons than passive weapons. So I would attempt to banish 3 normal weapons and 2 passive weapons. Now here I will just go for Song of Mana, since I need to farm a bit better. You know, I don't want to fall behind too much. My goal is around Song of Mana level 4 at the 3-minute mark, but aside from that I don't need anything yet. So there we go, Aether Sparrow is already there, perfect, I'll pick it up. Now, to understand one thing, the build that I'm going for just takes the list that you saw, or see right now again, and it picks all the lowest rarity weapons. I decided to go with Song of Mana, since I will include Laurel, Pentagram and Song of Mana if I remember it right, and by removing one rare weapon, it is more likely that more common weapons show up. So this is literally the worst circumstances that you could have if you would play a game. Knife is another very common weapon, so I'll banish it. At this point I should also mention, the more X you put on your character, the more banishes, the more rerolls, the more skips you will have. So the longer you play, the less will this be a problem for you, and it will just be easy peasy eventually to get all the stuff that you want to have. The Bijone has a weight of 50, as well as the gun that I have already, so I already got 2 rather rare weapons, as in those are the most rare weapons, ignoring of course Bone, Carello, Cherry Bomb is there, and Celestial Dusting, yes, there we go, right? I ignored those because while you can somewhat force them, I could get them every second run if I would focus on them. It is also a very tough task, it is also very unreasonable to do that because you don't really go for them and the weight of 1 is just so far off that it's impossible. It's that simple. There we go, we have Teragisu, very nice. So yeah, what I will do is quite simple. I'll just go for every single rare passive weapon and you can come along my journey to get there, and we already have Duplicator, perfect. Wow, that is going insanely well and I'm happy about that. But then again, I already banished 5 weapons. I think in the game there's a total of 32 weapons. I might be wrong with this, not counting the super rare ones, because they show up so rarely that they don't really matter for what we are doing. And that means if I banish 5 of them and I want to use 10 of them in my build, then 15 weapons are out of that pool, right? So only 17 are left. And that means it is very likely that I will see them eventually. Now, one very nice feature that a lot of people don't know about is when you have 4 weapons offered, right? So the game shows you 4 weapons and you're still missing some super rare weapons. Use a reroll at this point. Like, let's say you're done banishing, you're done gathering most of your weapons, but you're still missing 1 or 2. When the game offers you 4 weapons or 4 choices, then use a reroll, because the reroll will exclude everything that was offered to you, right? And that is amazing. So let's say in the game there are only 10 weapons left and 4 get offered to you, then that means the next reroll, best case, also 4 offers, will have 4 different offers than those that were offered to you. Or in other words, by doing that, you will only have 2 weapons left in the entire game that were not offered to you in this roll. Or in this level up, I should maybe rather say. But overall, that is just how it works and how it's done. Okay, there we go. A the Sparrow, let's level that one up. Quite simple. We have it. Level 4 already. This build that I'm using, it uses both the Union weapons, meaning the Firachi and the Vandalier from the birds and the guns. So I will need to wait until 10 minutes to evolve them, and then I can pick up the rest. Now, if you have to do this ever, it is a bit complicated since you kinda want to keep some rerolls or at least skips, since if you level up and let's say, what is a rare weapon that is missing for you? So in my case this would be Shadow Pinion and Gati Amari. Those are both at a 50, right? So I will not pick them up now, since they are the rarest weapons, they will be the hardest to get, and I want to get the worst possible scenario. So the worst possible scenario is that the rarest weapon are still available after my unions happen, after I get Vandalier, after I get Firachi, there we go, Firada to Fellow, perfect, that is another weight 50 weapon. But yes, after I combine them, and then I have to look for the weapons, and I don't have a lot of rolls left, right? Since I maxed out most of the other weapons, that means I'm very soon at a point where I'm just forced to take whatever shows up. Now at this point I can make a decision. I can either go for Empty Tome or I can go for Shadow Pinion. Since Shadow Pinion is a rarity 50 weapon, but as I explained, I want to keep 2 rare weapons that I pick them up once I have the guns and the birds combined. So in this case I will pick Empty Tome. In your case, try to aim to max out the slots of your weapons. So in this case you would want to get 6 active weapons, since this removes all the other active weapons out of the game. They can't be offered to you anymore, and that means every single roll that you do is only of passive weapons, right? And it's also the other way around. In the very beginning I was talking about forcing the super rare weapons. Now this doesn't matter too much, or at all actually, since you have the merchant, right? You can just buy them. But back then, in the days when you wanted to force, for example, bone or something like this, what you would do is, you would get 6 passive weapons as fast as possible, and then the game would only offer you weapons. And if you then banish very common weapons, and pick the other common weapons, then that would mean that the only weapons that it offers to you are way less likely. Like in general, you just removed a lot of high common weapons that would show up all the time, right? So it's more rare weapons that are left, and that just increases the odds on the bone, on the Carello, etc. by an insane amount. Something that you should maybe keep in mind now that I pick up a chest, that's a very good point to mention that. Whenever you run tight on a build, and let's say you are at a point where you're about to max out, do not pick up chests. This is very important. Every single level up that you get is a chance to roll for a rare passive weapon or active weapon that you're looking for. So every single chest that I pick up now that I already picked up decreased my odds to get them. Why am I picking them up? Because I'm trying to show off how well this works even under the worst circumstances that you could potentially have in a game, right? So I'm doing this, but you don't do this. If you know you're going for a super rare build, then simply do not pick up chests. Leave them on the ground, pick them up once you have everything that you want. Empty Tome or Fira? I will go for Fira here. It's overall a very solid weapon. Now I know that on the stage here we have Empty Tome and other stuff, but I don't care about them, right? Since they are rare weapons, I want to discover them on my own. This run is not supposed to show off a good run. The purpose of this run is only to show, yes, even if you go for the rarest build possible, if you do it right, you have a very, very high chance to succeed. Now, is this chance guaranteed? Is it guaranteed to always succeed? No, it's not. But keep in mind, this is the rarest build you can possibly have in a game. So if I manage to succeed most of the time with this, then you should succeed with a build that is not as rare way more frequently. And most builds, in fact nearly all builds, are guaranteed that you get them if you do everything right. Now there is a split argument about one thing, and that is, should you max out your weapons or should you distribute the level ups that you get on your weapons? The more luck you have, the more likely it becomes that you get an offer of something that you already own. That means once you get to a point with a lot of luck, simply max out the weapons, since you have the security backup of the game always offering you something that you already own, right? While if you have normal luck, I would recommend you to not max out your weapons and you just keep them at a lower level, right? You distribute them equally to have them in the pool as long as possible, because the only thing that really kills these runs is when you start maxing out everything and towards the end you don't have enough weapons offered in the level ups, and if you're unlucky then you don't get an offer that has anything contained that you want to have, so you're forced to reroll, you're forced to skip, or in the worst case you have none option left and you're just forced to take them. So again, for the worst possible take, what I'll do is I'll attempt to max out everything that I get as fast as possible. Now I also gotta see that I die fairly quickly. I want to get rid of all of my revivals, so once I evolve the guns to Farachi, then I can get rid of Tiragisu and get even another rare passive weapon. You know, at this point there are actually not that many rare passive weapons left. Like just with 6, you're already at rarity 80, okay? 100 is common and 80 is already, I would call it uncommon maybe, but even that is like, 80 is stuff like, okay, here's the chart again, you know, Dex, don't forget to show this off by the way. So here's the chart again, 80 is crown and mask, okay? So that is already, you see them quite frequently, right? And yeah, but this is the best that I can do. I said I will do the worst run possible, I will get all the chests that I shouldn't get, and here, triple chest, horrible. Those were 3 level ups where I could have gotten something that is rare, but I didn't, because I picked up the chest. And it's interesting because if you talk about it, it makes sense, right? But if you play, at least this is what it was for me, I never really viewed it that way, you know? Chess can only be good. There's no reason why this would ever be something bad. Now when you watch my gold farming guide, then I just pick up these chests because I just want to upgrade my stuff. I want to get as much experience as possible, as many kills. Why can I do this? Well, that character has already so many rerolls, so many banishes, so many skips, that it's near impossible to not get the stuff that you want. Like, I think my Pugnala right now has around 17 banishes. You saw her stats in the very beginning, so if you're curious, just go back and check it out. And that means, if I notice that I want to pick up a ring, for example, from the stage, right? Then I will just start banishing every single time I get a level up offered, right? If there's anything in there I don't want to have, I banish everything. I max out always one weapon first, usually passive weapons since they have less levels in them, and that's just how I do it, right? Simply because there's so much safety with the banishes, with the amount of rerolls and everything, that I don't have to do anything. Gati Amari is taunting me. We actually want to have Laurel or Pentagram. That is what I'm looking for right now. Gati Amari and Shadow Pinion with a weight of... Oh, Pentagram. You know what? I will go for Laurel. Yeah, I will go for Laurel. That is better. Simply because I don't want Pentagram to wipe all of my experience right now. But Gati Amari, Shadow Pinion, they will be the weapons that I pick up once I have my Union weapons evolved. Oh, there's Laurel. Perfect. There we go. Yeah, and now you will see an effect that is very interesting. As you can see, I have a ton of offers that are new. Now, if I had no rerolls, if I had no skips, this would be horrible. I will use my skips first, since I want to keep the rerolls for the Arcana later, right? Arcana are way more important. So just as a small disclaimer what I'm looking for right now, I'm looking for Duplicator, I'm looking for Wings, and I'm looking for either Mask or Crown. And once I lose Tiragisu, I will get the opposite, either Mask or Crown, you know, compared to what I skipped. So, talking about skip, let's skip this choice, and let's keep going. We're about to hit 10 minutes. Nice, there's Wings, perfect, I was just talking about you. We're about to hit 10 minutes. And at this point, it's very important that I start to max out the guns. I mean, optimally speaking, they would already be maxed out, right? But I will not pick up the chest that is offered to me here until I have the guns maxed out. Makes no sense to pick up an evolution chest before you can evolve. Just take a couple of seconds and wait, and then evolve it. Now, of course, if the guns would be a level 1 or so, it doesn't make too much sense to wait for it. The simple reason is that there will be more chests that will be dropped in the future, right? So just take the level ups if you want to, and you already have everything that you want to have. Now in my case, I don't have everything that I want to have, I have way more to go, so let's just wait a bit, I'll wait for the evolution, and then we can start this game. The toughest part will pretty much be the moment where I turn Vandalier into... Oh, actually, I could make this even less likely. So, you know how Vandalier gets 7 level ups after you combine it, and that gives you 7 options to get exactly the weapons that you want to have. And that means if you evolve it first and later on you evolve Rarity, which has no level ups, you're way worse off. So instead, I will now go for Ebony Wings, and I will max it out to Rarity. Again, worst conditions possible. I'm honestly not even sure if I will be able to do that, but no matter the result, keep in mind this run is so unlikely to happen statistically if you normally play, that it would be a wonder if I managed to pull this off. That would just mean that this strategy is so insanely good that even that works. Okay, I forgot I maxed out, that was very smart. Wait, we can evolve, there we go. Okay, now we have Vandalier, and I will just attempt to max it out. Now, of course, if you force the worst possible scenario, then at one point it's impossible to do it. There we have Crown, by the way. So just as a reminder, Crown, then die that Tiragisu is gone, and get Stone Mask. But yeah, obviously if you try to do the worst thing ever that is even possible, then there's a high chance that you will fail, right? That's why I say I don't know if I will actually do this. However, if you just normally go for the build, if you just normally do this, you will not be in circumstances that are even remotely close to be this bad or to be this unlikely. Okay, let me just pick up the chest here. What Arcana do I want to go for? You know what, I don't care, I will just use my 2 rerolls as if I wouldn't have gotten the stuff that I want, and I'll choose something from the last page. Okay. Well, those are entirely useless, I can't use any of those. Sure, Jail of Crystal, why not? So, oh, there we go. Shadow Pinion, already there, in the next level up. So I think the way I'll do it to lose my revivals is I will head over to a Guardian, and I will just let the Guardian kill me. What do I want to evolve here? I can actually evolve Shadow Pinion, that is very good. So, usually what you would want to do is you want to evolve the Union weapons first, so you don't evolve them at the very end when you have no offers left. Now, I will just go for whatever I can evolve the moment I pick up the chest, and there is a way to make this even worse, but if I want to force a failed build, I can already tell you I can force that. It is not that difficult if you intentionally want to do it wrong, but that also means if you don't exactly know what you're doing, it can happen very easily that you end up in a scenario where you never get the stuff that you want because you do something wrong. So, just to summarize, this should be, yeah, there's Rarity. So, the last weapon that I'm looking for is Gatiamari. Now, just to summarize, banish insanely common weapons according to the chart that I provided to you, that are at a level of 100. Put more focus on active weapons to banish them, but not purely, right? Just more focus because there are more of them, so you want to banish more of them. However, you can also wait a bit with banishing weapons, and if, for example, you end up getting all the weapons very quickly or all the passive weapons very quickly, then there's no reason to banish those anymore, right? So, yeah, that is another small hint or little help or whatever you want to call it. Now this chest here, I decided to immediately pick it up since it has no real impact on the game. It will make it less likely that I will get Gatiamari. That is a given, right? But as I said, I'll still go for the worst possible, minus waiting to evolve the Union weapons. That one is just overkill. That one will make it very unlikely that I'll end up with the rare weapons that I have. I'll give in to that, you know. So to understand what would happen is, I would evolve Vandalier first, once everything is maxed out. Everything that I have is maxed out. After that, I would put every single level up into Vandalier no matter what shows up. And then I would try to find the rare weapon, right? Just one rare weapon of the two that I'm looking for. So Shadow Pinion or Gatti Amari. After that is achieved or failed and I'm forced into a wrong pick, I will evolve Firachi. And after that is done, I only have one offer, one level up to get the weapon that I need, which is a rare weapon, right? And that is so unlikely that it's almost guaranteed to fail. And this is a situation that a lot of people are put in that don't know about these mechanics or the exact way on how to do this, you know, all these tips and tricks. So again, just to summarize, sorry I interrupted that, I know. Banish very common weapon and passive weapons as early as possible. Put some preference to the active weapons since there are more of them. Avoid maxing out weapons if you have normal luck, because that will make it more likely, if you max them out, I mean, it will make it more likely that you get an offer of things that you don't want to have. And that will force you into stuff that you don't want to have. Well, there we go. There's Gatti Amari and Stone Mask even. Gatti Amari has a rarity of 50, so I will go for this one now. And since there are more weapons in the game than passive weapons, it is always more valuable to pick up a weapon instead of a passive weapon. You know, just talking about the best efficiency. And there we go. As you can see, this build is done. There's nothing left to do for me. I still have 6 skips left. I still have 2 rerolls for the Arcana in the future. And that is it. Now, just because this worked for me doesn't mean every single case will be identical. I would succeed every single time, right? Not to be misunderstood. But if I can pull this one here off, that is... out of a 10, I would say this was a 10. You can't make it harder unless you're stupid. But I even intentionally did the worst things possible by picking up all the chests right. And I would say the build that I gave in the Bone Zone, rarity-wise, with the guns, with the duplicator, empty tome, and there was one more in there that I always forget. Let me quickly think about this. Duplicator, empty tome, oh, Tiragisu, yes. With those 3, yes, it's unlikely, but I had all of them here. If you just repeat this, and if you get used to it, and if you improve on it, and, you know, you get the right feeling of what to do when, then you'll manage to succeed with the build. I would argue at least, let's say 8 or 9 times out of 10. If not even 10 out of 10, after you got more experience in it, right? So, I just realized... will I actually win this game? I never actually considered if I could win this game, you know? I just want to show off something. So, if you want to get along with this ride and see if I can win or not, then you're welcome to stay. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this guide. There's little less to say. I said everything. I'm not a big fan of making one summary page that just shows the stuff off, because that misses a ton of nuances. And what always ended up happening when I did that in the past is, people skip the video, they read the text, which misses the ton of nuances, and then they complain that something didn't work out for them, right? So, there's no... yeah, that is amazing. There's no advantage in me doing a text guide if not only is it worse for my channel, but people then complain and feel bad about my guide because something didn't work for them that they couldn't hear. That, you know, because they didn't watch the video. You know what? Let's head over there and get the arrows. I want to have the arrows, I want to have the silver ring for bonus. You know, I will just get all the passive weapons. Now that we are done, we can just go around, I can evolve the Laurel, and I will give my best to win this entire thing. My character gives duration. What benefits from that? I'm pretty sure Manacha benefits from that, but I'm not 100% sure, because Manacha is a bit weird. I know 100% Song of Mana benefits from duration. I think Manacha does as well. Vandalier benefits from duration. Well, actually the fire guy here, the fire farting also benefits from duration. They stay around longer, and the longer they stay around, the more damage they deal. Right, that is actually good. The Gatti Amari evolution, Vicious Hunger, also benefits from duration. But that is actually a very interesting build. That is weird. I don't know, what I love doing is when I do certain challenges or guides like this, it's kind of funny how I instantly bloomed up the moment I started actually playing compared to doing the guide. I don't know if you noticed this, but while talking and doing the guide I was more calm and, you know, focused and saying the stuff that I want to say and everything. And now I like the moment I realized, oh, I actually get to play now, you know, I can just have fun and enjoy the game. It immediately went to, okay, I'm hyped now. I don't know. It's a bit funny for me because the topic of, oh, decks you change and you used to be different sometimes comes up, especially recently. And for you to understand, especially for those people that are maybe newer, or those that were, you know, around with the channel for a longer time but missed a bit the development there. I used to be rather calm and, you know, deeper voice, less excited, just do the stuff. Of course, super excitement when I broke my gold world records, since this was a main thing that I was doing at that time, but it was more, how should I say it? Yeah, calm. Calm is the best way to describe it. And one day, I did a video, and it was the first Infinity Bone video that I did. You know, early on when I started doing Infinity videos are just, I take one weapon, every other weapon in the game is not available to be picked up, the weapon starts off really bad, it's worse than normal, but every single level up will give a small buff to the weapon, right? I manually do this, I manually put these stats in, and the idea is you start off super weak, super bad, you have to work for it to grow the weapon, but eventually the weapon will get to a point where it's super overpowered, and you get to see a weapon in a state that you simply can't see in a normal game, and that is a different kind of, you know, game, but it's also a lot of fun. And in that video, for the very first time ever, prior, I used to cut out when I was laughing, when I was overly excited and stuff like this, because I perceived this as something bad. And in that video, I was joking about myself, I was, you know, ridiculing a bit myself, I intentionally kept in things that I didn't want to keep in, I made so many dick jokes, it was insane. Boner jokes, dick jokes, stuff like this, you know. And I kept it in and I couldn't stop laughing because of all the stupid stuff. And that is how I usually am. It's just not what I did in videos because I didn't feel comfortable giving off that picture. And people in the comments loved it. They absolutely loved it. And at this point I was like, wait a second. Like, I was still very hesitant to just be myself and play how I feel or talk how I feel. But I noticed that, well, people enjoy it, right? So I should try to keep it in the future again and see what happens. Like, as I said, at this point, still very hesitant, not sure if I do it again, then it will backfire, or people will enjoy it. So, at random bits, I would be doing some jokes that I wouldn't do prior, I would be laughing more, I would be more excited, more hyped, not forced hype, just that I would restrict myself less, and people enjoyed it. People really enjoyed it a lot. I, of course, know that there were people that enjoyed my calm self way more, that I would be more, yeah, calm overall, and I also get that, you know, it sucks for them, but for the rest, for, I would say a majority, at least given by the likes that the videos got, the comments the videos got, what was written in the comments, I would say, overall, it was not only a good decision because I could finally be myself, but also a good decision in general, right? If you just think about the channel and everything. It's of course also a very big part to just be yourself, because restricting yourself can kill the vibe of everything, right? Since you have to pretend to be someone that you're not. Well, it's not really pretending. Limiting yourself to not do a bad joke where you shouldn't, right? If you had a funeral and you would make a bad joke about maybe the corpse or the relative or something like this, that you would usually do, but now you don't do it, you're not faking. You know, right now, socially speaking, you shouldn't do this, which I don't view as a faking, to do something that is not according to the situation. And yeah, that was the same for me, that I just limited myself and that reverted. And the longer I go on, the more I'm relaxed with being exactly how I am. And maybe at one point, there's another side of me, how I am, and it's pretty much I talk unfiltered. I say things as I think they, like, just as I think, yes. Wait, that is actually the sentence, yes. I say the things as I think. So, I hate sugarcoating. I hate it when you have to sugarcoat. The problem, however, is everyone perceives stuff differently, right? So if you take the same sentence in the same tone 10 times to 10 different people, there's a very high chance that these 10 different people will have 3, 4, 5 or even more ways of understanding what you just said. And that is a problem with online personalities, with having a lot of people watching them. And a lot is anything for me that is more than 10, right? If you have that, then there will be misunderstandings. But it's tiresome. If you always have to be careful how you word something. And at one point, it's like really like... For me, this topic is so obvious that I get frustrated talking about it. Like, not this topic here, I mean in general, you know, when I have a certain topic that I talk about, oh, should we go for Heart of Fire, that applies to the Valkyrie Turner now? Yeah, let's just do it, why not? Some topics are so obvious that I feel like they don't need to be explained. I don't need to be careful how I word it, because it's so obvious what is meant. But this is, you can't expect it, of course, you know. But if you take care or try to accommodate every single way of understanding that is out there, then you will spend 3 hours just trying to formulate everything and cover every single case. I have this problem with guides, right? So some people, they are really infuriated, they are mad that my guides, when they are so long, they want to have a short guide and I could have done this in 4 minutes, and then I do it in 4 minutes, and then I have people that don't understand what actually goes on, because you can't explain game mechanics in depth and stuff like this in a 4-minute video. It's simply impossible. All you can do is tell the person what to do, but they won't understand it, and if they have to adapt, or if they start thinking, could I improve something, they don't know what to do, what to replace, because they don't understand how it works, right? They can't evaluate something. Like, I can tell them Rarity is the best weapon, but they won't understand why unless I explain it. How the beams work, how Awake works, how it works off-screen, you know, with killing the enemies and stuff like this. You have to cover these things to give an understanding. And I understand the frustration if you watch something that could have been summarized in 5 minutes, or even less, you know. And now you had to watch it, and maybe you're smart, and you just follow along, maybe you have the game knowledge. But some people forget that when you make a guide, these guides are not for people that are advanced. These, even advanced is a false word, right? Like, when is someone advanced? Just by playing a lot? No, I have seen people that had hundreds of hours in games, and they didn't know how stuff works. They were just good at the things that they knew that worked and performing them well, but they didn't know why it works. And the problem comes in once there are changes to the game, then they will not understand what to do to compensate for the changes and get back to a similar or even better performance, right? What they will do is they will just brute force stuff. And I'm not a fan to give someone a strategy and just say, okay, here's the concept, now brute force it. I hate it. I dislike this. Now, in some rare cases, like with the level 20, level 40 abuse of the experience system in this game, yes, there I gave the baseline, but I didn't explain everything. But what I did was the opposite of what I just said. What I did was I gave the idea, I explained the mechanics, but I didn't explain how it's done. As in, what I do to get the best outcome. So everyone knew at level 20 and level 40 you get plus 100% growth, which by the way doesn't mean doubling the growth, it just means this value here gets plus 100%, and I would just explain how the core is done, right? Rerolling until you get 4 empty tomes on the map, because every empty tome pickup is a save and level ups. How the mechanic works at level 20 and 40, how it's lost again at 21 and 41 and stuff like this. And I gave some hints that you should use Rarity. But that was also the only thing that I did, right? I didn't say more. And in that case, I think it is more than fine. But for all other guides, of course, it would be useless to say, this guide is how to get the most gold in the game. And then I say, hint, the gold bags, they trigger the gold fever, and the more gold that you collect, because it's based on the gold value and not on actually collecting the coins, the longer the gold fever will go on. What is that for a guide? That is useless. So yeah, point is, you can't satisfy everyone. It's impossible. And what I do is, I usually look at the topic, and then I try to determine how difficult is the topic. So for example here, I didn't even attempt to really summarize every tip that I gave, right? I can summarize the core, and when I try to do that, I explain it with the banishes, I explain it with keeping the rerolls, with the skips, not picking up chests, right? That is the core. But there are way more nuances to improve the entire thing. And some people, they don't have the time to watch a video. That is of course sad, I understand this, but I have a split interest. One is, I want to make a guide. The second one is, I want to make content, you know? So, if I wouldn't want to make content, if I just want to make a guide, I would just make a text guide on a page and that's it. The benefit, of course, in a video is that if something goes... Oh my god, wait, I might actually die here. I don't have revivals left. Okay, let's be a bit careful. But yeah, the benefit of a video is, if you want to, then you can watch the video that happens and see exactly what was different, right? To compare it to your results, to compare it to your performance, to compare it to your progressions as well, what you did versus what I did. Like, in Gallo Tower, did I walk up, did I walk down, what did I do? And stuff like this, so you can compare this one-to-one. Covering all of this in a text guide is impossible, because the person would end up reading a multi-page guide. Like, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 word guide. That is impossible. And this is where it's so important to watch videos and just see and understand. Understanding is the most important part. Why someone is doing something. Why is he picking this weapon and not something else? Like, if I get... A very good example, right? I said, if you have a Rarity 50 passive weapon and weapon, pick the weapon because there are more weapons in the game, so it's less likely that it will show up again. And I don't technically need to show this. If you pay close attention, then you will see that I always do that. I always do that automatically, unless it's not needed. Now, of course, there's also the issue, when you do this, then you might read stuff into something that simply doesn't exist, right? That you might think there is a pattern of me doing something that actually has no pattern and it was just random. Or maybe even a mistake on my end. And if you would ask me what is the better way of doing it, I would say, nah, you don't need to, like, don't do what I did, do it differently, but because I know that the success rate is near 100%, I don't care. I don't care if I get to 99.7% or 99.5%, those results are for me near identical. But overall, you know, overall, if something goes wrong, if something goes different, I always recommend just looking at the video and what happened and comparing where did it differ. What went wrong for you in comparison to me? And not just stopping there and saying, oh yeah, and I don't get Tiragisu and I don't get Empty Tome and you got that and that's because you succeeded. If that was the only reason why I succeeded, I wouldn't have made a guide. That would have not become a guide. I spend a ton of time testing whenever I make a guide with all kinds of different ways and whatnot. Now with the axe, I always repeat and I always say, hey guys, this is so vague, this is so difficult to measure because I can't replicate runs. I can't guarantee that your run will look like mine because your egg amount, your character, and your stats, even with identical egg amount, will look different from mine. So there will always be a certain difference, right? But overall, in total, aside from these guides, usually everything can be done very precise. There is luck to it, of course, there's always luck to it. But if I, like in one video of mine, I said, okay, I need Tiragisu here, at 10 minutes the boss will spawn, it's 8 minutes right now, I don't have Tiragisu yet, and I think I was also missing Empty Tome. Then I said, I'll start banishing weapons now. And then I chose weapons to banish. Now, I honestly don't care whether I banish a weapon that has a weight of 80 or 100. 100 is better, but this goes back into the 99.5 and 99.7 category, you know, where, yes, it is of course a difference, it would be better, but if I get something offered, like a cross, that I could ban now, or I have to pick a level up, then I rather want to banish, so the next level up, I will then have one less weapon that could be offered to me, right? So instead of going for the optimal route with banning, I go for what I assume to be an optimal route for level ups. You know, so not sure if this made 100% sense. If it didn't, please just feel free to ask me. And I would say it looks like we are winning. Yeah, that is amazing, I can't believe it. I actually expected with this build I will not be able to win. But I guess with Evolved Laurel, right, that was the well, it was not really the turning point, was it? Maybe I would have died if I wouldn't have Evolved Laurel. It's easy to say now because I walk around, but usually I would have just stand still and, you know, use the Valkyrie Turner to push away the enemies. What is going on? Oh. Oh, this will take a while. Okay, I'll skip forward and you can see how long it took for me to die. Well, that's hilarious. Oh, I think we did it. Fine. Oh my god, 1.5 minutes later. That is quite some time. Well, there we go. Would you look at this? We actually won. I hope this guide helped. Check out the Bone Zone gold farming and the Ghetto Tower gold farming video. It's linked in the pinned comments. And I'm out.